I'm McDaid. I'm the Director of Education for South Lanarkshire Council. I'm absolutely delighted to be asked to speak at today's Community Links AGM. Of course, the very fact that we're here on Zoom just shows you the changes that we continue to be faced with in our lives on a day-to-day basis. And I'll probably reflect on that in just the few minutes I have as part of today's introduction. Probably first of all, a bit about myself. I've been in South Lanarkshire Council for over 25 years now. I started here as a head of a PE department in Cathkin High School, and then as deputy head teacher in the school itself. Then moved to Calderglen High School in East Kilbride, where I was head teacher for just over 7 years, and moved into the centre in 2013. So therefore, I feel as if I have an absolute connection to South Lanarkshire, to the young people within South Lanarkshire and to the community itself, and recognise the importance that community groups and indeed community organisations play in making sure everyone within the community thrives and are really focused on what they can achieve. And that's absolutely how I feel about Community Links as an organisation and the kind of work that it does. For today, I thought I'd try and reflect on three things, and really a bit about what we've been facing and what it means for us. A specific look at our children and young people, and I hope that you would expect me to talk about our children and young people over the past 18 months as well, and possibly I'll look forward as well. I think if the last 18 months have taught us anything, it's been that when people pull together, they can do extraordinary things, irrespective of the very significant challenges that we've been faced with. And I think that that is true. I think that we've all been faced with massive challenges, whether that be with our family, whether that be in our work, or indeed at community level. It's possible that we've also, prior to dealing with the effects of the pandemic, taken things for granted, whether it be that visit to your family, hugging your loved ones, being in a real meeting with people, not through Zoom, or the levels of concern we have over our health or finance, how are the bills being paid. For me, it's also about ensuring that our children remain safe and that our most vulnerable are taken care of. I never, in my 30 years or over 30 years within education, expected to see the national closure of our schools. Not once, but twice. And that level of challenge and anxiety, I think all of us have faced, have at times been off the chart. And of course, the potential impact that has on our health and our well-being, and the things that we have to consider and the challenges people have to consider on a day-to-day basis. But as I said at the outset, I do think that people have been extraordinary, and we can see that when they pull together, none more so than in our local communities, community groups, community organisations, neighbours, really trying to look out for each other, whether it be at neighbourhood level, whether that be at local authority level, or indeed support trying to be provided at national level as well. If I think of something in particular that springs to mind, it reminds me that we need each other. We need each other on a day-to-day basis, and I am grateful for the fact that we do, and that's not always done through organisations like schools. It's often done by people who are looking out for their neighbours. Very practical example of that, my mum lives in Burnhill in Rutherglen, and she'd been keeping unwell just at the beginning of the first lockdown. And of course, not being able to go and see her, you do worry your level of anxiety. But her neighbours were tremendous. Neighbours that she didn't really know that well, although she had stayed in the close for quite a period of time. New neighbours that had come in. Often she would talk about them, but not always in great terms, because the two young people would be bouncing the ball up the stairs and she would hear them in the close. But quite honestly, without the family that were beside her and without the friends of theirs who looked out for her, we really would have been particularly anxious, and it really did serve us and it showed to us how when people do look out for each other, the difference that it can make. We are lucky to have some tremendous people in our communities, although it shouldn't take a pandemic to recognise the important things in our life, I think. And it isn't that all about it's not about our jobs. We simply need to be trying to look out for each other. We realise that life isn't perfect. but probably at the moment, many of us are reevaluating, maybe all of us are reevaluating things that are important. What are our priorities? What are the things that mean the most to us? Is that the travel and the commute? Are we able to change that within our job? Is it spending more time with your family? Is it understanding the things that are precious to us? And for me, is it about your family and spending time in your community? Really built around the community, by the community. And what about our children and young people? I still consider myself to be a teacher, just that I go into an office each day. They've been remarkable, shown levels of resilience that we couldn't have anticipated, given the levels of challenge that our children and young people have been faced with. From remote learning, you've probably heard about the bubbles that we've had to have to keep them in distinct groups, right through from nursery into senior secondary school, face coverings for our secondary pupils. Many children and young people having to self-isolate over the course of last year. They have managed and coped quite remarkably given the challenging circumstances. However, they do need us, and they continue to need us. We must continue to invest in them. This isn't a pitch for more money. It's about us continuing to provide them with opportunity. It's about ensuring that we continue to be inclusive, that we break down barriers, that poverty isn't a reason for young people getting access to opportunity. Young people have endless ability and really can do tremendous things. Our job within the community, whether that be as the education service or community groups, is to support young people, to support children, and to provide them with those opportunities that they need. Of course, I do hope for a more settled year ahead, but who knows what that will be like. While we might be in a better position around remote learning, it's much better when our children and young people are in our buildings. That opportunity for them to socialise, that opportunity for us to be able to focus on their well-being and what that means for them on a day-to-day basis. Maybe as I head towards the end of this, I'll look forward as we ease out some of the restrictions. What are the questions that we should be asking ourselves? And as Community Links has always done, how do we involve the community in the decisions? How do we make sure the work that we do is at its most relevant? We have shown that we can do almost anything, maybe just not everything, and at the same time. For you, I hope the discussion today is about what matters most to you. What now, in terms of your reflection? What are you doing as an organisation? What are your priorities? What does make the greatest difference to the community itself? How is that transferring itself into a day-to-day business? And really, are there things that we now don't do that maybe are not quite as high up on our priority list as they were maybe 18 months ago, maybe 12 months ago, possibly even 6 months ago? Possibly the last few months have shown really what our priorities should be, and how do we then go about achieving those priorities and supporting each other in order to do that? How do we work as a local authority? How can we work in partnership? Who do we listen to? How do we manage to engage with those that are vulnerable? Because people will still continue to need our help and support. But communities have shown they have a tremendous resilience. It's just that we need to make sure that we continue with that, and that we continue to focus on the bits that matter most to all of us. I am confident on the basis of how well communities have worked and organisations like Community Links have worked. We have a chance of building a society that is better, that is based around the values that we all aspire to, those values of kindness, those values of community and looking out for each other. I do hope that you have a very productive AGM, and I've been delighted to have the opportunity to have a short input today. Thank you very much.